Hi friends, sometimes we take an action after an event has happened. For example, we ship the products after receiving customer order. In the agent space, it's like we trigger the shipping agent after a transaction record is created in the customer's order table. Okay. Similarly, after receiving an email, we might schedule a meeting if it's required. So in both the cases, we took an action after receiving or after an event has happened. Now, similarly, what if we can trigger AI agents based on some event happening? So we don't want to trigger these AI agents manually, but once the event is happened, that event itself trigger the AI agents. Okay, so these are called event-driven agentic systems. Now let's take a very simple example of a Gmail. So here we have Gmail, and then here we have a trigger which can trigger an AI agent. Now this trigger, it will monitor our Gmail for any new emails. As soon as we receive a new email, this trigger will trigger the AI agent or invoke the AI agent with the email information. Now, once this event agent is triggered, whatever the tasks we assign to this agent gets executed. Now here, the communication between the trigger and the Gmail can be in any one of the directions. For example, the Gmail can itself send a message to the trigger whenever it received an email, or we can configure the trigger which can continuously monitor the Gmail for new emails. Okay, so in this scenario, we will make our trigger continuously monitor our mailing system for new emails. All right, now for this simple example, we are giving 4 simple tasks to this agent. First, it analyzes the email, the content of the email, to decide if it should book a meeting or not. If it's a generic email and does not require a meeting, it does nothing. This is where the process stops. But the trigger continuously monitor our mailing system for new emails. So this process, it goes on. Okay. All right. If it deserves a meeting, then the agent schedules a meeting and send the alert to the sender of the email. Now here, these 2 steps are redundant because we have already scheduled the event and inform the sender as well. But imagine a scenario where we are discussing about some new research topic. So in addition to scheduling a meeting, we might want to use tools like OpenAI Deep Research to research about the topic and send those notes to all the participants of the meeting, right? So we can take such steps after scheduling the meetings. But in this case, to keep it simple, all we are doing is we are drafting another email and sending it to all the participants of that meeting. Okay. All right. So we need 2 tools or 2 sets of tools. Okay. One, to do some tasks related to Gmail, and the second one, tools related to our calendar, so that it can book and find free slots and book the meeting. Okay. Now, for this purpose, we will be using this Composio. It's an excellent open source framework where they have developed over 300 tools for various software or application systems. As you can see here, the Gmail, GitHub, the calendar, Google Sheets, Twitter, Notion, Slack, some database tools like HubSpot, so on and so forth. So over 300 very useful applications and tools or systems have the tools here, which can be used with any open source agentic frameworks like LangChain, CrewAI, Llama Index, etc., etc. So sign up with Composio and create an API key, save that in your environmental variables. And then we need to give permissions for both apps, the Gmail and the Google Calendar. Okay, so go to integrations and then tools. This is where you find all the tools, including Gmail, Calendar, etc. So click on Gmail, click on set up Gmail integration. And then once you click here, that will take you to Gmail homepage where you can authenticate. You will do the similar thing for the calendar as well. Now by default, we will have access to all the tools. So the tools are like sending an email, fetching an email, getting user profile, so on and so forth. Now, in addition to all these actions, we have a trigger. So this trigger is for alerting whenever there is a new Gmail received. Okay, so enable the trigger, which I have already done. So if I go to integration, as you can see, I have already gave permission to a bunch of tools, including my Gmail and the calendar. Okay, so give the permissions, copy your API key, and let's go back to the code. All right. Okay, so from Composio, we will be accessing the tools using this Composio toolset. And to monitor the events, we will be using trigger events data. And then, as I mentioned, we can use any agentic framework. In this case, we are using CrewAI, but it works with a number of open source agentic frameworks like LangChain, Llama Index, etc. All right. So using this Composio toolset, we access to the tools. So the first one is, if we are going to schedule a meeting, first we need to know the free slots available in the user calendar, right? So Google Calendar, find free slots. That's one tool. And then we want to create an event, which is booking a meeting. So Google Calendar, create event. Okay. So for the email, for the calendar, we need these two tools. And similarly, we want to send an email to the sender, right? So Gmail, send email. So from Gmail, we access this tool. Now, let me go back to Composio. So if you look here under Gmail actions, so as I mentioned, these are all the tools, right? Now, either we can give specific tools or select specific tools, or we can select app, where we say it's like app.google calendar and app.gmail. Then the tools will contain all the tools related to Gmail, and here all the tools related to calendar. Now, we can provide all the tools to the agent, but it's a good idea to give only those tools which are absolutely necessary, because otherwise what will happen is, for example, email, it has over 15 tools. Now, but we know we will be using only one tool. So what happens is the agent, whenever it need to execute a task, it will check all those 15 tools to figure out which is the best tool. So one, we will be increasing the latency, and two, the number of tokens will also increase because the agent will reason which tool to use. So the cost will also increase. Okay, so that's why instead of choosing the app, always choose these actions/tools to reduce the cost as well as to reduce the latency. All right, so we have a bunch of tools. We need an LLM, obviously. And here, using this trigger events data, we will create, using this Composio toolset, we can create a listener. So basically, we pair this listener to our Gmail, and this listener will continuously be monitoring the Gmail for any new emails. Okay. All right. So let's access the current date time and the time zone. So here we are creating an agent. Now, to keep it simple, we are using only one agent because all these tasks are very simple tasks, but it's a good idea to have multiple agents and each agent specializing in a particular type of tasks. For example, in an ideal scenario, we might use two agents here, one agent to do the tasks related to the Gmail and the second agent to do the tasks related to the calendar. But this task is simple, so we are using only one agent for all the 4 tasks. Okay. All right. So here we are creating the agent. Now, if you have used CrewAI before, the role, goal, and the backstory must be familiar to you. It's just explaining what this agent is supposed to do. We'll quickly go over. So it says analyze email, create event on calendar depending on the content of the email, and you should also draft an email and send to the sender of the previous email. Okay, some backstory. You are an AI assistant specialized in so and so forth, etc., etc. And we pass the current date time as well as the time zone as the variables. Okay, so we provide LLM, and obviously we provide a bunch of tools. Now in CrewAI, we can pair the tools either to the agent or to the task. Now the difference is, we'll go over it, but when we pair any tools, for example, we have done it here. When we pair any tools to a task, only those tasks will use those tools. Okay. Whereas if we pair the tools to an agent, the agent might use those tools to execute any task the agent will perform. Okay, I hope you understand the difference. So pairing the tools to a task is very restrictive, whereas pairing the tools to an agent is more broader, because the agent might be doing 10 tasks, so it might use the same tool in 10 tasks. Okay. All right. So here we supply only the scheduling tool. Obviously, we have only one agent, so the delegation is set to false. All right. So here we have the listener, and then we'll come back to this portion in a second. But let's define the tasks. Okay. So analyze email task. All right. Now, by now, we have received a new email, and the content of the email is already available. Okay. So here we are giving 3 tasks, the first 3 tasks. Okay, analyze the email, and here is the content of the email. Here is the sender of the email and the thread ID. Okay. All right. If you decide to create an event and find the free slot in the user's calendar, that's the second task. Now, once you find the free slot, book or create a calendar event or schedule a meeting. Okay, and send the invite to the sender email. Okay, so those 3 tasks we clubbed under one task. Now the agent, email assistant, and the expected output is email was analyzed, an event is created if needed. All right, and then the second task is to send an email informing the sender that a meeting has been booked. Now, as I said, this step is redundant, but in a practical scenario, we might be doing some research, or we might be notifying the user via email or Slack, etc., to quickly say, hey, I received your email and I have already scheduled a meeting, something like that, right? But just for the demo purpose, we are doing a redundant task of sending the email in addition to the calendar. All right. So we have the 2 tasks, and then here we are creating the crew with the agent and the 2 tasks. This one is important. So to the second task, we provide the context as the first task. So what it means is whatever happened in the first task, all that context is sent to the second task, so that the agent, all the information is available for the agent while executing this second task, because it is dependent on the first task. Okay, so this context variable is very important. All right, and then here we put the crew together. It's a sequential process. It's a very simple process, and then we kick off the crew. Okay, but all this happens only if this function gets called. Okay, so we decorate this function with this listener. So as I mentioned, we are going to pair this listener with our Gmail, so that the listener will continuously monitor our Gmail. And then once we receive a new email, the listener will run this function, okay, by providing all the details of the email. So here the event is Gmail, new Gmail message, okay, and the event which get passed to this function will contain all the details of the email. For example, using the event payload, we can find out the thread ID as well as the message from the sender and the sender email ID. Okay, so once we have this information, we are creating these tasks with these variables or the parameters, and then we are kicking the crew. And this is where we are pairing our listener with the Gmail. Actually, we did pair here, but here we are sort of going live, right? So we are making our listener listen to the email. Now wait forever, so it will be continuously monitoring. Now I haven't checked all the options, but here we can configure so that the listener will monitor for an event for the next 1 hour, 24 hours, so on and so forth. So that can be configured. All right. Okay, now let's kick it off. So here I have 2 emails. This is the email I paired to the Composio tools, and here I have another email. This is like a sender email. So let me send an email. All right. So while that is happening, let's look at my previous run output. So in a moment, we should be seeing that, hey, there is a new email with these details, and the events get triggered and the process happening. And hopefully, if everything goes fine, we should be seeing a new meeting created, and even the sender receiving an acknowledgement email as well as the calendar invite. We should see that in a few seconds. But here is my previous run, exactly the same. And this is how it looked like. So the subscription created and it monitoring for new emails. And after a while, I have received a new email from the sender. All right, and here is the content of the email. So the agent get triggered, and it has decided that it needs to book a meeting because the email content says we need to discuss about a project, so on and so forth. So it requires a meeting. So the agent, it's using Google Calendar find free slots tool. It used that, and it find the free slots I have in my calendar the next day, and then it pick up one of the free slots, and then booked a meeting. As you can see here, this time it's using the Google Calendar create event. So that's created a meeting invite and send it to the sender as well. And then using this email assistant, it drafted a new email with all the meeting details and send it back to the sender. Okay. All right. So this is the content of that email, as you can see. Hopefully by now this process should have been complete. As you can see here, monitoring for new emails. So it has received this email. The output should be very similar to what we just saw. Sometimes it's a bit, things can go wrong with these agents, but let's see what has happened. All right. Why did it create multiple events? But that's okay. So here, as you can see, yeah, so this is the sender email, right? This is the sender email. So it has scheduled a meeting. And in addition to scheduling the meeting, it also sent that follow-up email saying, hey, yeah, I'm pleased to confirm the meeting, and here are the meeting details. Now going to my own email or the receiver email. So here is the email I received from the sender. All right. And it should have created a new meeting. This is the meeting. So it created a meeting the next day or the day after on, what is it? At 10 a.m. I think that's the time. Let's check. We can check this calendar. Yeah, so here you can see 4:30 to 5 on the 3rd, 6th. I think these two calendars are on, I think, yeah, this one. Yeah, this is the meeting which is being created on the 6th. Now, obviously, there are a number of things we can do. We can say whether the meeting should be created on the same day or the next day, how long the meeting should be, all those things. We can give more information to the agent so it can make better informed decision on behalf of us. But as you can see, we can trigger agentic systems based on some events happening so that the process can happen automatically. I hope you find this content useful. If you do, please consider like, share, and subscribe. Thank you very much for your support.